Welcome to my channel where we share scary stories from people just like you. And today's stories are about being stalked. Our next story comes from a Reddit user. I was backpacking through Southeast Asia for several months in 2013. I had already been on the road for a few weeks when I arrived in a small city in a northern Thai province. It was my first time in this particular city, and I had no one there. I decided to book a hotel room near the night market, which was full of people selling all sorts of things, food stalls and clothing stalls, as well as stalls selling fake brand name goods. The streets were crowded and packed with motorbikes. There was barely a place to walk, let alone drive. I made my way past the fake Rolex and Gucci stalls and found a street vendor who was making fresh sugarcane juice. It was delicious. I stood around chatting with him while he prepared another drink for a customer. We communicated using a mix of broken English, sign language, and the universal language of smiles. After finishing my drink, I turned to leave, but I stopped when I heard the vendor say something to me in Thai. I understood that he was telling me to wait a second, and he beckoned for me to come closer. As I walked towards him, he lowered his voice and told me that I should not go down that alley by myself, because there were a lot of purse snatchers around there. He said it would be better if I went with him. Although I appreciated his concern, I told him that I needed to go this way and thanked him for his advice. I turned and walked down the alleyway. About halfway through, I heard footsteps behind me. Thinking nothing of it, I continued walking until I heard the footsteps stop. I stopped and slowly turned around. To my horror, there was no one there. I shrugged off the goosebumps and continued walking out of the alley and back onto the main strip. I couldn't help but feel uneasy. I thought maybe I should have listened to that old man and gone with him. I started to regret drinking so much sugarcane juice. As I rounded the corner, I spotted the same man standing next to his cart. I waved and smiled at him. He returned the gesture. I walked past him and onto the main road. I noticed a group of men staring at me. They were older and some of them were wearing motorcycle helmets. I didn't think much of it. Maybe they were just bored and didn't have anything better to do. I quickened my pace and decided to get out of there. I had only taken a few steps when I heard someone call my name. I stopped and looked around. There was no one there. I shook my head and continued walking. I didn't want to believe that someone was actually following me. I had already been followed by sketchy men before in other countries, and I knew it was just part of traveling in these places. You just have to deal with it. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then I heard it again. I stopped dead in my tracks and whirled around to face whoever was calling me. But once again, there was no one there. A cold dread filled my stomach, and I turned and ran. I could hear the men shouting behind me, but I didn't care. I didn't dare look back. All I could think about was getting away from them. I don't remember how long I ran for. It felt like an eternity. Finally, I stopped running and turned into a small alley between two buildings. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. I could still hear the men shouting outside, but it was muffled by the walls. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. I told myself that I was being ridiculous. It was probably just a bunch of drunk guys trying to have some fun. They probably didn't even know my name. When I opened my eyes, I realized that I was not alone. Standing in front of me was a man that I had not seen before. He was tall and thin with a scraggly beard. His eyes were wide and his expression was unreadable. I froze, unsure of what to do. The man took a step towards me, and I instinctively took a step back. My mind raced, trying to come up with a plan of escape, but there was nowhere to go. I was trapped. The man took another step towards me, and I felt a surge of panic. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I could only watch in horror as the man loomed over me. Then, to my absolute terror, he reached out and grabbed me by the throat. I struggled to free myself from his grasp, but his grip was like iron. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I was sure that this was the end. I was going to die here in this dark, narrow alley. But just when I thought I couldn't take any more pain, the man suddenly stopped. He let go of my throat and stepped back. He looked at me for a long moment without saying a word. I could see his eyes boring into mine, trying to figure out what he was thinking. What was he planning to do? Was he going to kill me? Was this the end? Finally, he broke the silence. "You shouldn't be here," he said in a low voice. I managed to stammer out a response. I just wanted to get out of the market. The man nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. "It can get pretty crowded here." He paused for a moment. "But now you're lost." I felt a surge of anger. This guy was scaring the living daylight out of me. What did he want from me? What was his game? "Let me ask you something," I asked. "Do you know where I can find a taxi?" The man shook his head. "No, I'm afraid I can't help you with that." He paused again. I'm sorry. He looked at me for a long moment. Then, without warning, he turned and walked away. I watched him go, feeling a mixture of relief and terror. Relief that he hadn't hurt me, but terror that he might come back and finish the job. I didn't stick around to find out. I ran as fast as I could out of the alley and back onto the main road. I hailed a passing tuk-tuk and told the driver to take me to my hotel. The driver looked at me with concern in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked. I nodded mutely, still shaken from the encounter. When we got to the hotel, I paid the driver and rushed inside. I locked myself in my room and didn't come out until the next morning. When I did come out, I went straight to the front desk to ask for directions to the train station. I didn't bother asking the old man where I could find a taxi. I was done with surprises. I made it to the train station without incident and boarded the train to my next destination. As I settled into my seat, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. I kept replaying the events of the previous night in my mind. What was that man's game? Why had he grabbed me? Had he been watching me the entire time I was at the market? These questions kept me up at night. In the end, I never found the answers I was looking for. The experience left me shaken and wary of strangers. I couldn't help but feel that I had been targeted simply because I was a foreigner. It was a sobering reminder of the dangers that can lurk in even the most crowded places. So do you ever have those feelings like you're being watched or followed? Let us know your stories down below. And if you like this video, then check out more stories like it. But until then, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing scary stories.